with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'll be your host, Brent Thomas. I'm here with you, having a good evening. We almost didn't have a show tonight. The internet, I don't know if they're working on it or if something broke or what, but suddenly it was down for a couple hours, and they weren't sure when it would be back up, but it came back up. So here I am. Here I am. Excuse me. But I was a little worried we wouldn't get here, but I figured, well, at the worst case scenario, I'd just turn on my phone and stream to you that way for a while and have a chat. But it did come back up, so we are live, and I hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. All right, guys, we are now live and underway here on the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I went too fast. I couldn't keep my palate wouldn't keep up with my will. Anyway, we are live and underway. Got some stories lined up for you. Hopefully, they'll be good and entertaining. I think they are. The phones are open if you want to call in and be a part of the show. 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Hello, Miss Deb. I see ya. And I'm saying hi here because I can't type anymore, so I can only do it verbally. Try what again? Oh, the fast speak. Yeah, my mouth only shapes words in such a speed. Even when I try to push it a little faster, it's like there is a wall that I run into. But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And I try to give you quality words as well as I can. As many quality words as I know anyway. So, again, if you're in the Indiana area, definitely check out the Scare Fest that's going on over there. Wes and Bob Gimlin are hanging out now. They have arrived over there. And, yeah, I mean, it'd be a great opportunity to meet the legendary Bob Gimlin and, of course, Wes Germer himself, Mr. Sasquatch Chronicles, in Indiana as we speak. So, what was it called? ScareCon or something like that, I think. ScareCon. But hell, if I was in the area, I'd be there. I would hitchhike there. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't hitchhike anywhere. But I definitely would be in the area. If I was in the area, I would definitely make the journey, because I'd love to see Bob talk before he's all done doing it for good. And this is definitely one of his last appearances, so it's kind of a landmark show for sure. But anyway, I don't know. Do I got any other news? Just keep checking out the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Got a new one coming out tomorrow. It'll be launching at midnight, so or as close to that as soon as I get it loaded. Anyway, sometimes it's after midnight, depending on how productive my evening has been, but sometimes it's 1 a.m. But in any case, it'll be up by morning. So anyway, I guess that's all I got right off the top of my head. If you've got a story of your own that you'd love to share or have shared on the show, I'm going to be doing listener stories tomorrow evening on the 2-hour show, on our Friday night show. I've got 2 stories in, 1 more coming. So if you want a story read tomorrow night of an encounter that you've had, be it ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, or other, by all means send them in. I'd be happy to read your story as well. If you want to hear it narrated by me, send it in. If you want to say it yourself, call in. Again, 720-923-0500, but either tonight or tomorrow night. But the options is yours. The option is yours, not the options is. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just a little bit punchy tonight, but it's okay. I'm just kind of wound out. I've been really busy. So let's get to the first story and see about these quality stories I pulled up for you guys. First one tonight is coming from Texas. Let me get down and see. Let me just go through and see who is here. We already got a pretty good crew here. You guys are coming in a little quicker all the time. So let's see who is here. Then we'll read the Texas story. So Art is Life is in here. We got Aussie Tiger Rockstar Fams is in here. Aussie, have you checked out the Believe podcast yet with Cade Moya? It's we did kind of a crossover episode between he and I. Mine aired a week ago tomorrow, and his aired beginning of this week. But I was curious if you've listened to it. It's a really good show. Beth Fierce is here. Bigfoot in Germany. Brandon Becker is here. Brown Dwarf. Cameron F. Cha-Cha is here. Hello, Miss Cha-Cha. Deb Varner. Hello, my lovely Deb. Good to see ya. D Singer. D Singer. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking of D Swiger. I don't know why. I was like, wow. I like stroked out there for a second. L is here? I don't know if it's Ellie or L. How do you pronounce that, L? You have to tell me. But Matthew Learned is here. Mulgoyan Monster is in here. Nellie Moen. Renee Cruz. Real Deal is in here. Scott Murphy and the Rot Man. So thank you guys for all being here. Ken, have you seen that Believe podcast as well? You two are both from down under, so I'm curious if either of you have checked it out. I did tell him a little bit about you, Ken, because of all your stories that you have. He might be interested in hearing from you, brother. And it would be in your neck of the woods if you feel like sharing. I mean, I didn't tell him who you are exactly. But, either one of you, I guess. You both have contributed your stories. And I'm sure they would play really well on those shows as well. So just something to think about, guys. But that's the Believe podcast. And you can find it on iTunes. So definitely look for Believe. Hey, Duke, good to see you. I didn't see your name on that list before. So, nah, I ain't Brent. Okay, all right. No worries, Ken. I mean, it's not an obligation. I just thought it'd be, a chance to share your stories with some of your country mates as well. But I'm thrilled you shared them with me. All right, so I'm sorry, I got to rub my eyes. Let's see what's going on in Texas, shall we? In the summer of 2007, I moved from Arizona to Texas to go to school. My work fortunately had an office in Irving, Texas, that I transferred to, so I was guaranteed a job when I moved there. The office where I worked was part of a large 3-story building located in an area of the city called Irving, located in the city of Irving, called Las Colinas. Is known as being the rich area, and as far as I heard from native Texans, the community is relatively new, and the building where I worked was built only in the last few years. I don't really know why I would have experienced a haunting there if that's indeed what it was. I'll editorialize on that after the story. The office where I worked was in the second floor. From the first day I started there, I had a weird feeling about the second floor women's restroom and also the elevators. I noticed almost immediately that many times when I approached the elevators, the doors would open of their own accord without me even pressing a button. I thought at first maybe someone else had pressed the button and then had second thoughts about riding it because they forgot something at their desk or for some other reason, but then I realized that if someone does press the button, it stays lit up until the elevator arrives on that floor. And I noticed the elevators were doing this to me even when the button was not lit up. You have to understand, though, that the owners were refurbishing the lobby area and there was quite a bit of construction going on. And it's quite possible that the construction was messing up the electrical system. I still didn't like riding the elevator when that happened, though. It's hard to explain, but it felt like I was being invited in. The second floor women's restroom felt even spookier than the elevator, though it looked like nothing more than a normal large industrial restroom like you would find in any office or public building anywhere else. There were 10 stalls, a sink area, and a maintenance closet. The whole thing was run on sensors, which again would explain some of the happenings, but I didn't like going in there alone and was kind of scared of the maintenance closet for some reason. But I thought I was just being silly. But then I started to hearing other people talking and saying that they felt the same way. My boss, who sometimes had to work on Saturdays or late in the evening when no one was there, got to the point where she would use the downstairs bathroom after hours, or the one upstairs was freaking her out. When we went in to use the restroom and we were alone, the toilets all around us would start flushing. Faulty sensors, we thought. The only problem is those sensors are set up to go off based on movement. And what would make them go off if there was no movement? In addition, I'd sometimes notice the maintenance closet door was closed when I went into a stall, and then it would be open when I came out. Yeah, that's creepy. I checked to make sure it was the kind of door that closed firmly, and it really was. As I already said, all this could be explained by the electrical cross-wiring or faulty sensors, but then on the very last day I worked there, something happened that wasn't so easily explained. Ironically, it also happened to be October 31st, though I don't know if it had anything to do with it. My boss had taken me out for a farewell lunch. I gathered all my stuff from my desk and was heading out the door when I decided to use the bathroom, since it was a 40-mile drive to where I was going. When I entered, I went down to the handicap stall, which was the very last one. I knew that nobody was in the restroom because all the other stalls and the doors standing open and were empty. Excuse me. In addition, the restroom the restroom had one of those heavy-duty doors that they put on public restrooms, the kind that can't be opened quietly, so you can always hear if someone comes in. I was in there in the stall, everything quiet, no one else in there, when all of a sudden I heard the motor to the paper towel dispenser operate up at the front of the restroom. I think my heart stopped beating for a moment because before logic finally returned. Faulty sensor, I thought. The usual explanation for weird bathroom incidents in this building. I thought there was an air conditioning vent above the sink, and if there was any paper towel hanging down from the dispenser, the air could have stirred it and made the sensor go off, and easy enough to explain. I hadn't heard anyone come in, but I peered under the stall I was in anyway, and I didn't see any feet anywhere in the bathroom, and well, I relaxed. The explanation lasted all of 30 seconds because I suddenly heard a piece of paper towel being ripped off the dispenser. Oops. That's not a sensor. Okay, that was not a faulty sensor. I know my heart stopped beating at that point. I gathered my stuff up and decided to make a run for it. The only problem was I had to go by the sink to get out of the bathroom door, and I was scared to death of what I would see. Well, I took a deep breath and opened the door, and there was nothing there. But as I ran past the sink, I saw a piece of paper towel positioned neatly on the counter between the two sinks. I was glad to leave now, several months later. It's just an incident I can't explain, and I'm still open to the possibility of someone playing a joke on me. But I don't know how they did it, since I would have been aware of anyone coming through the restroom door, and that's the only way to into the bathroom. That's really bizarre. Now, that's a really common misconception, is people think, well, it's a new building, there can't be any ghosts. Well, there really can be. Ghosts can haunt buildings. They can be there because of something that happened. They can be there they can also be there because of something that was brought into the property that had an attachment. They can also be in there because perhaps somebody had an attachment with them and the attachment decided to stay. So there's all kinds of ways for spirits to enter a property. And then there's the idea of just transient spirits. They're not really locked to one location, and they may move around a lot. So the idea that there has to be old history and tragedy and all of that to create a haunting is really not correct. So it can come because of a tragedy, it can come because of age and just an imprint, it can come because somebody has a big attachment to the property from years back and they passed away, but they're still connected to that place. Or they can come because they came on something. Maybe there was an attachment to an item brought into that place and it decided it wanted to stay, or it came with a person, or, whatever. So there's all kinds of reasons that a haunting can happen. But, I think we're just conditioned to believe old equals potentially ghosts. And that's, a lot of times it can be true, but not exclusively. There's all kinds of reasons there can be hauntings. So, or at least presence. I don't mean to say hauntings necessarily, because I don't really know if what was discussed in this story really counts as a haunting. Um, it's some kind of activity, but in all honesty, it's very benign. It's not throwing things at people. It's not slamming doors and trying to creep people out. There was the whole deal of the toilets flushing around people, and I think that's just somebody's there and wants to be noticed. So it really honestly plays to me like more of a somebody just wants some attention, just an acknowledgement. And that could possibly end the whole experience, just for somebody to go, hey, I know you're in here, but look, you're freaking everybody out. Please knock it off. And I'll talk to you when I'm in here. Yeah, then you might have to explain why you're talking in the bathroom all by yourself, but it might stop the activity. Just saying, something that might work. All right, the next one's coming from Florida. All right. This story happened to my sister. It was, I think it was January the 5th, 2007. Our parents were out, and it was winter break for us here in Lake Worth, and we recently moved without any history on where this house was built, as the development was new as well. It was about 9 p.m. at night, and my siblings were playing The Sims 2 while I was in the guest room next to the front door, playing Zelda on the Wii. My living room is right across from the front door, and there where the kids were. My sister begins to hear whispers in the direction of the front door, telling her by her name to let him in. She looks, but nothing was there. She also heard a banging sound on the glass door, and I didn't hear anything, and neither did my brother, who was right next to her. She goes to eat something and hears it even closer, and she told me to stop. And that's when I heard her crying. I have no idea what she was talking about. When she realized that, we called our parents, and they came home. She heard it one more time, and then it all ended, and hasn't happened since. None of us heard anything at all. We were all huddled together, very scared. My sister tried calling it out that night last year, but it still persisted. I myself am scared something horrible will come sooner or later. Any ideas? Well, that's tough. It sounds like a one-off kind of thing. Creepy, though. Very creepy. For some reason, it was targeted to that. I'm listening to Paranormal and Oz with... Oh, yeah, good job, Ken. Thank you. I mean, it was a good show. We had a lot of fun doing it, so I appreciate you checking it out. Definitely do that, brother. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, we're going to Indiana, actually. Indiana. Let's see what this one has to say. Well, this one's pretty long. All right. This is my first time reading... I'm sorry. It's not my first time reading. I've been doing this a while now, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes it feels like the first time. This is my first time posting a story. However, I love to check out everyone else's stories. So I've lived in the same town on the same block my whole 25 years of living. I lived with my parents for 19 years and then purchased a home directly across the street from my parents, so my son would be around his grandparents and great-grandparents. Then we purchased the house, or when we purchased the house, rather, it had sat vacant for almost 5 years, and needless to say, it was in some need of major renovations. Well, I was working the third shift and trying to do some renovating to the residence at the same time, so it took about 5 months to get everything finished. But when we did, it looked brand new, and it was really nice. Well, I still lived with my parents while doing the renovations, and one night, I was walking over to the house from my parents to do some work. It was on a Saturday night, and I remember this because I had the weekends off, and as I was walking across the street, I noticed there was a light on, which wasn't uncommon because my dad would leave the light on for security reasons. Well, I got up to the front step of the house, and as I walked up to it, the front door, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to look, there was a man standing in my living room. The only description I have was the subject was approximately 6 feet tall. Just as fast as I saw it, it disappeared. I immediately grabbed the front door, unlocked it, and went inside to find out who was in my house. That was not supposed to be there. I looked all over the house, but I couldn't find anything. The back door was actually deadbolted from the inside, and all the windows were shut and locked from the inside, and I couldn't really make out a good description because it happened so suddenly, but I do believe I know who he is. Approximately 6 to 7 years prior, my family had lived there. A mother and a father of a set of twins, brother and sister. The father, who was a tall man, had a heart attack in the living room, or in the front room, and died right there in the front room due to the heart attack and head trauma. I remember all this because my dad and I were standing outside doing yard work one day when the daughter came running to us and said that her dad had fallen in the front room and was bleeding from hitting the coffee table. He passed away right there in front of my dad and I, while we did CPR, waiting for the medics to get there. The family had went downhill after that day and had to move out due to the foreclosure several years later, and that was the ghost that I saw. I never really believed in ghosts, and even after that sighting, I didn't believe it until I had a few friends come over that claimed to be mediums. And I hadn't told them anything about my house except that I wanted them to come over and see if they could figure anything out. I was still a skeptic at this time, and they came in, and within minutes it told me almost verbatim what had happened 10 years or so prior. My jaw dropped open in disbelief, and I am now a believer. Ever since that reading 5 years ago, I started noticing things that most others around me hadn't. I now believe that I have certain abilities that prior to about 3 years ago, I just pushed off as coincidence. Shortly after moving in, my son's mom, who has moved out and left my son and I, were sitting in the living room one day watching television when we heard a very strange sound coming from the attic. It sounded like someone had rolled something from the living room, which was in front of the house, all the way to the back bedroom, and that distance is approximately 45 feet in a straight line if you're in the attic. My father and I had been up there several months earlier doing the renovations that I talked about, and I remember taking everything out of there, and I know we had taken everything out because we had been all over that attic running new wiring due to the house only having like 5 outlets in the entire house. I know that there wasn't anything up there. I forgot to mention that the entire attic is covered in about 6 inches of blown-in insulation to keep the house warm in the winter due to us having some really cold winters. And that is the other odd thing. With all the insulation covering the entire attic, how did anything make a noise up there? Well, the day we heard the sound, my ex wanted me to get up there and check it out, but at the time I was really just too scared to. A few months later, my father and I had to get up there again to run some more wiring, and I forgot about the whole incident, and we were working on the master bedroom, the back bedroom, and as we were crawling back there, I shined my light back there to see what the electric drop was, and there was a coffee can. I know that there wasn't anything in there, so how did it get there? And more importantly, how did it make all that noise when there's 6 inches of insulation all over the attic? Just so you know, when we heard the sound, it was a clear winter day, and we heard it roll from the front room to the back bedroom. There are more stories that I'll post eventually, but believe me, ever since realizing what I can see and hear that most can't, a lot of weird things have happened to me. Weird things have happened to me my entire life, but I never paid attention until now. Well, that'll learn you. Got to pay attention to those things, ladies and gentlemen. There's all kinds of possibilities, and I think honestly that we all have sensitivity. We all have the ability to hear and see spirits. It's not the playground of just a select few, but there are a select few people that were born with those things turned way up, or at least some kind of experience in their life really triggered those abilities to really kick up. And I think that's kind of the difference, that, there may be an event that triggers them. It might be through practice and meditation that will enhance them. But I think we all have the abilities. We all have those psychic abilities. We just got to, we got to work on them if you want to have them, I guess. I don't know. I think for me, I get, I don't know, premonitions is the right word, but I just get vibes, I get really strong vibes about things. Like I get good vibes or bad vibes. So it's like a, hot, cold kind of thing. And a lot of times when things are going to get rough, I feel it coming like a week ahead. And it's really a sucky thing, to be honest with you. But at the same time, maybe it's a really good thing. So I think being tuned in is a good thing, though. I do. Because I don't know if we really understand all that we're possible or capable of doing. But I think we're capable of doing a whole lot. That was a pretty good story, though. Let's get to the next one. This one's coming from Ohio. Ohio. Jim's lurking? Is Jim lurking? Really? Gemini. Hey, Christy. How you doing? Thanks for coming in. Good to see ya. Who was that, Duke? Who stopped in? I don't see anything. Oh, I see another one. Allison Nile. Did I see that right? Allison Nail? Okay. Good to see ya. I don't recognize your name, but welcome. It's great that you found us. Let's see. Linda Peterson, good to see ya. I got you. Yeah, Linda's one of them. That's been corresponding with me today as well. Do you need to meditate to tune in? I think it helps. I do. Oh, okay. So Brandon says, I really only notice things at night where I'm thinking a lot. Now, that's interesting because I think what's going on in those situations, Brandon, is that thinking a lot is, I think what's happening is that part of your mind is really focusing on something or some things, but another part of your mind is more open. And maybe that's where your impressions are coming in, because it's kind of bypassing your normal conscious brain that way. Like you're kind of splitting your focus in a sense. So you're focused on these other things, you're kind of throwing them around, and there's another portion of your consciousness that's probably now doesn't have to compete with all that and can make you aware of things more easily. So that's pretty interesting. I appreciate your input on that. Well, you're the troll hunter, Duke. I know you'll take care of it, brother. All right, so let's go to Ohio and see what's been going on here. I've been living in my house for just about 6 years now, I think. And so on my birthday, I overheard my dad talking to my aunt and her fiance. And he said that when I was taking a shower, he asked my mom if she wanted something to drink for dinner. And then he just hears a little boy say, "I want Coke, Daddy." Oh, jeez. When I got out, he asked me if I said that I wanted a Coke for dinner. I told him no, and he told my mom, and I got creeped out. I asked him if there's a ghost in the house, and I know he lied to me, because the next night I just heard a little boy ask if I wanted to play with him. I turned on my TV, and then it just turns off. But I didn't even touch the remote. I know now that it's haunted, and every time I take a shower, I don't scratch my legs, and I end up with huge scratches on my stomach and legs. That's not a child. That's no child. And sometimes on my arms, and I tell my mom, and she just says it's just because I take hot showers. But I don't anymore, and I learned that before we moved into the condo. A guy across from us shot himself because he was really depressed. And there might have been something else too, but I'm not too sure. I'm not scared anymore because I know that there's more than one ghost, but one of them's my dogs and the other one's my great-grandma. But I'm not sure who the other one is, and I know it's not the person who killed himself. Tell me what you think. Well, I don't think you've got a kid spirit at all if you're getting scratched. That's a mimic. That's some kind of dark spirit mimicking a kid. Again, I don't know. I know we have a lot of new listeners and stuff, but I hate repeating myself all the time because I think it, those that have been with us for a while are like, oh, he's going to talk about the kid spirits again. Oh, geez. But here's the thing. I think that there may or may not be kid spirits. I don't know. I guess I've heard from many psychics that there are, and so I'll trust them that there are. However, it occurs to me that a lot of times things start out as kid spirits, but then it gets ugly, and then it becomes scratches and screams and all kinds of problems, and it's because people have opened themselves up in a very charitable, loving way, because they believe they have this basically orphan ghost child, hanging around, and everybody wants to help children. I mean, if you're a normal person at all, if you hear a kid crying, you can't help but want to make it better. It's just kind of genetically programmed into us. So, you hear these stories about people like, oh, we bought it dolls, and then the dolls started moving around, and then my husband was having problems getting crabby and getting scratched and stuff, and it's like, oh no. And it always goes downhill from there, and the next thing you know, there's exorcisms involved. So be very careful if you think you have a kid spirit. That's all I'm going to say. I would be very, very cautious. Don't open yourself up to anything. Don't open yourself up to anything. Just keep your shields up. And if you want to help the child, buying it toys and opening your heart to it, it's a sweet gesture, but basically you're surrendering a lot of your protection and allowing whatever this is right into you. So keep it your shields up, or keep your intentions to keep a distance, and try to get the child to transition. And if it really is a child spirit, it can come back and tell you thank you somehow. But if it's not, then I guess you'll know. I don't know. Eesh. Anytime scratching's involved, that's no longer a little boy or a little girl. It's something else. All right. This one's coming from California. No, I'm not doing this one. It looks like excerpts from a book, and I'm not going to read from somebody else's book. All right. Let's go to the next one, which is North Carolina. All right. Let me skip past the fluffy stuff. All right. When I was pregnant, I had an experience when I woke up in my spare bedroom hearing a door slam. As I sat up and cleared my head, I heard the sound of a dog toenails scrapping, scrapping. I think they mean scraping on the linoleum. It sounded like a large dog, like a lab or something, and it sounded like click-clack of nails. I grabbed a metal pole belonging to a disassembled shelf and searched my apartment. I was scared because an animal really had to be disillusioned, maybe rabid, to go up the steps and into this place. There was no dog. I know it wasn't my neighbor's dog because it is kennel trained and it's a small dog. I did find out later that she had put her dog in a facility and went out of town that Friday as well. I dismissed the idea eventually and had nearly forgotten all about it until about 2 weeks ago. We were having a series of small, fast-moving thunderstorms, tornadoes, and high winds. Being this house isn't the sturdiest of constructions, as it is old and in some disrepair, landlord is very old himself, I called my mom to come get me and my baby, and when she got there, I was finishing packing up a diaper bag when we heard the back door slam really hard. The floor in the back of the place is sinking with the house, so if you set a ball on the floor, it rolls towards the back of the kitchen. So when I opened the back door to get the air moving in the house, as I had that day, or even when it was open just 2 feet, it is wedged very well into the floor and doesn't move without a good bit of effort. There is no way the wind could have moved that door. I had it as far open as I could possibly make it go, so it was wedged good. As my mom and I headed to the back, we heard the dog steps, and when we got to the dining room, and as I checked the door, my mom got very uncomfortable and insisted that we go. She said she felt like something didn't want us there. She thinks it might have even been a protective force with the storm brewing and all. Another thing happened recently. I heard the front door close, the distinct sound of sleigh bells I have on it, and then I hear Jeff's computer chair move as if he had gotten up and the chair bumped the desk. And then I hear steps down the hallway and sounded like Jeff's clunky way of tromping around the house with keys and change jingling. I called out to him, but there was no answer. So I get up out of bed, peek in the living room, and there is nobody. I looked in the back of the house, nobody. I called Jeff's phone and asked if he had just been home, and he said he had not. He was in another town. And this has started happening at least once a week, and I don't know what to think about it. Something else freaked me out is that darn nursery that we made. There are some times when I feel something not good is watching me and my son as I feed him. Maybe it is vulnerability because I breastfeed. I don't know. But one time when he was close to newborn, maybe a month and a half, I got that bad feeling and suddenly his eyes got really big. And it seemed he was staring at something and he was whimpering. Well, I was frozen in fear at the time, and I visualized a protective shield around the both of us and slowly got up and went to my bed with the baby acting as if all was normal. Now he tracks things while in there, but that might be something else, like the float things in your eyes. Now I'm scared to put him into bed in there, and it's supposed to be time to get him to sleep on his own room. This place was great before I had a baby, exciting and interesting, but now I can't wait to move. We're planning on it in the fall, but I really need some advice on what to do until then. I had safeguarded my room, but not without difficulties, and that's when the old hag was the worst. If anyone has a way to make it so I don't have to worry about my son or I being threatened in any way, that would be absolutely great. Yeah, that's the scary part. Especially with an active haunt, you don't know. It's hard to know what kind of intentions are going on. Now, I do agree that the door slamming might have been someone being protective and saying, get out, the storm's coming, get out. But I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it was somebody just being a jerk and trying to spook them just because. I do believe that with negative entities, they need you to fear. They want you to be afraid. That's why they do weird stuff and try to freak you out all the time. And the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, is because if it's a negative entity, like truly a dark spirit, not just somebody that's crabby or in a bad mood, but a dark spirit, the kind of spirit that probably subsists off of us somehow. The fear is a surrender. When you're afraid of something, you are surrendering to it. You are giving it power over you. Not only symbolically, but literally. You are giving something control. And that's why it's important in really aggressive hauntings to stand your ground. Because if it is dark and trying to prey on you, when you're afraid and running around screaming and terrified and crying, you are subordinate to its will already. And it's important to keep your aura strong for protection. And so even though it may be hard, you really got to keep yourself together. And you may have to just get angry and just, be mad. Being mad is much better than being afraid in situations like this. Because being mad is not a surrender. That's, I'm not saying to challenge it like, come on, because then, you're encouraging that confrontation. But I'm saying to be angry and just say, go away, get out, you're not welcome here. That kind of thing. Because a surrender, of course, is an opening, So if these things have to prey on us, and that's one of the reasons I believe that really aggressive haunts by dark entities are so active and they do such shocking things, because the more scared you are, the easier you are to prey upon. So just my 2 cents, take it or leave it, but I really believe in that stuff. I really and truly do. All right, now we're going to go to West Virginia. Let me see how much time has gone by. I've been yapping for a while here. What the hell? What? It says new streamlined live control room is the new way to go live. Oh, that's new. I haven't seen that before. Oh. I'll have to try that before the end of the show. So even when I'm done reading stories, don't go everybody yet, because I want to test that new YouTube control room. I want to see what that looks like. Could be cool. You never know. How's everybody doing? You guys having fun in the chat? Am I doing all right? Am I entertaining you? Are you not entertained? Let me know. I want to know if I'm doing my job here or not. I haven't been able to watch, especially when they become the Antichrist. Who becomes the Antichrist? Are you talking about my ex? Sorry, that was free and cheap and easy. I've actually got a few of those. Oh, no. Hey, Treva, good to see you. I don't recognize your name, but welcome to the show. I'm glad you're entertained. Thank you. Oh, yeah, please give me the likes. That's wonderful. It's Tre, right? Tre? Yeah. I'm sorry, my eyes are just a little coated. It's been a long day. I think I might need new glasses, honestly. I think my prescription is changing on me, but I haven't gotten new glasses in like 15 years. So no, probably like 10 years. I've had the same glasses. And honestly, I'm usually, I'm nearsighted, so I see fine close up. It's just the far away stuff gets a little fuzzy. But I think it's changing because I think it's getting older and older. You know, popcorn is a sign of being entertained, I think, Crow Creek. That's a good sign. I like that. How many likes do we got now? I can't see until I load up a whole different screen. So, let me know. Fun, super happy, good times. What do you write? Anime or something? That sounds like, or a manga or whatever. That's funny. 32. Okay, 32 likes, but we got more than 32 people here. So, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate your likes. That means a lot to me. It makes my heart happy and bouncy, along with the rest of me. But anyway, all right, let's go to West Virginia and see what's going on there. This one's not long at all, so it won't take too long. And then I'll have to load up some more. This all happened when I was 6 years old, when I saw my first ghost. I was riding my bike around in the basement of the house that we lived in with my father, which my father had built in 1961. I'm an only child, so I was very comfortable roaming around and finding things to do. My point here is that even at 6 years old, I really didn't frighten easily at all. I was riding down around the length of the basement several times. On my last pass around, I looked up and saw a man sitting on this stone and brick seating area that my father built square in the middle of the basement. I wasn't frightened. I was just shocked. He was sitting with his arms and elbows resting on his knees, hunched over, and he was wearing old bib overalls and a red and black checkered flannel shirt and old worn work boots, and his head and face seemed to be badly scarred, as if he'd been burned. I sat there for a minute looking at him, and he finally looked up at me, and it was almost that he didn't know I was there. He stared straight at me, and this look of anger came over his face, and he said, oh, I gotta do this. And he said, "Come here, little girl." And that's when I became hysterical, covering my eyes and screaming for my dad, and I finally got the courage to look, and he was gone. I ran to my dad in the other end of the house screaming, "Daddy, there's a man in the house." Well, he looked, and all the windows and doors were as they should be. Dad chalked it up to my imagination, and so did my mom, but my beloved grandmother, my mom's mom, listened intently when I told her about the man, and she told me very sternly, "If you ever see him again, run. He is a very bad man." Well, I never questioned it further and just obeyed because my grandmother's word was law. Years later, when I was about 17, my mom and I were going through my grandmother's house to clean things after her death. I found a photo of a man and woman in farm clothing from what looked like the 1800s. I instantly recognized the man in the photo as the man in the basement when I was 6. I ran to my mom and dad and said, "This is him. This man, I seen him when I was 6, and nobody except Grandma believed me." My mother said he was her grandfather, her mother's father, and he was not a nice man. He was very abusive, and my grandmother never liked to speak of him. My mother continued to tell me that both he and my great-grandmother, the lady in the picture, died when the house caught fire when the children were at school one day. My grandma and her brother were sent to live with their aunts. Needless to say, I was really pretty creeped out that the man I saw was scarred from what looked like burns, and he was very angry that I was in his space. I've never seen him again to this day, and since then, I've seen a lot of paranormal activity that I can't explain, and I sometimes enjoy the experiences and sometimes not so much. God has seen fit to give me a great gift for a reason. Even if I don't always understand it, I feel really blessed. Well, thanks for listening, and it's nice to have a forum where people are actually interested in experiences versus freaked out by them. Huh. Yeah, you got to wonder what to say he's a very bad man, sounds like there's a lot more to that story. Ugh. All right, pull up a few more because I love me some story time. I do. I honestly do. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, shut the door. All right, let's read some more stories. I'm just checking the chat to see what's going on. I know I'm not missing any phone calls, so we're doing good. Let's see what's up. Oh, this is more sleep paralysis. I'm kind of getting wound out on sleep paralysis stories. They come up an awful lot, and granted, it's a really common phenomenon that people have, but it's like, God, there's so many of them. I guess maybe it's partially due to the fact that I've experienced them for so long. I went through years of sleep paralysis problems. All right, let's see what this says, though. California. I'm 17 and a special kind of ghost hunter. This story took place in 2001. I was about 7 years old. I just watched the movie The Sixth Sense with my 6-year-old brother and my mom, and I asked my mom if I can sleep down here in the living room because the house was cold and we had a fire going on at the time to make things warm. And my mom told me I could sleep downstairs, and my brother asked me if I could get his things so he can sleep down here too. I was being mean to him and told him, no, you can't. Go get it yourself. My mom then told me to get his things. Not able to say no to her, I headed upstairs. We had a 2-story house to get our things. Once I made it to the top of the stairs, my body felt heavy, and I was unable to move any part of my body. And since I had already turned to look into the room, the door was open at the time, and my right arm was very close to the switch that turns on the light in mine and my brother's room. I saw a figure come from the side of the room. It looked like it was an old lady carrying a hunter's knife. The old woman looked like she was wearing a veil and a white dress. It may have been a mourning dress, the dress a woman wear to a funeral. The woman slowly made her way to me. Oh, that's creepy. Paranoid as I was, I'd never been attacked by a ghost, and I didn't understand why I couldn't speak or move any parts of my body. During the time I was missing, my brother wondered where I was, and he came up the stairs and started talking to me. Once he saw the woman, he froze too. About 5 minutes later, I moved my hand and turned on the bedroom light. The woman then disappeared. Freaked out as I was, I ran down the stairs with my brother following right behind me, and we told our mom what we saw. She went up and investigated and didn't find anything, and once we got our things, we went back downstairs and they acted as if nothing had happened. I thought I heard someone quietly laugh as they walked away. The next morning I found a scar on my left arm near the elbow, and it looks like a hunter knife cut it. To this day, I don't know what it was that attacked me. Yeah, that's, of course, there's paralysis there and an old woman, but I don't know if that's really the same thing as sleep paralysis. I don't know what's going on in that one. That's unique. That's a unique story. Oklahoma's next, ladies and gentlemen. This related back to another post that I made. I've listened to many suggestions and tried to contact the spirit that was bothering me, and that's trying so hard to get to my attention. And I tried a couple of times before to verbally and mentally make contact, and since I heard these voices in my head, I thought talking back to them in my head might be soothing, but up until last night, I'd gotten nothing. Last night, I went up to bed after staying up rather late watching television, and as I was lying in bed, I decided to give contact with the spirit another go, and I said, if there's anyone here that wants to speak with me, now is your chance. Well, nothing happened for a really long time as I concentrated on trying to hear what the entity was trying to say to me. And all of a sudden, it felt like all of my energy had been completely drained, and pain burst through my head. It frightened me, so I think this made the entity back off for a moment, because I felt some of my energy come back, but then it soon started back up again, and for the moment it felt like the room had dropped a couple of degrees, and then I felt the tingling sensation on the side of my face again. I could feel something with me in the room, and it frightened me. I don't think the presence here is meaning to do this, because soon after I was very, very calm. Calm enough to go to sleep, and it might have been comforting to me somehow. Maybe using the energy it took to comfort me to make up for the fright that it caused. I'm a believer at heart, but a skeptic by nature. My heart is telling me that there's a spirit with me, but my mind is telling me that this was just a nightmare or a little freak out. I'm kind of prone to them when I see something even vaguely supernatural. I'm really interested as to what everybody thinks. Is the entity with me becoming stronger, or am I just a victim of my overindulgent imagination? I don't know. My answer is I don't know. Excuse me. The next one, hold on. The next one is California. I live in San Francisco, an old section of town, and relatively new condo built in 1989, and my husband brought home a charm at Christmas time in 1995 that a friend who was experimenting with the dark arts made. Oh no. And he put it on a glass entry room table. Oh, yeah, why don't you have a dark art charm? By February 1996, the energy activated by the charm came into full bloom. For instance, I took off a pair of earrings one evening and set them on the armrest of the chair, and they were gone the next morning, and then reappeared shortly thereafter on the ottoman beside the chair. The energy became more aggressive. My beloved cat and I were in the dining area. We heard a distinct meow, and my cat began to walk towards the noise. My cat became more and more under attack. Ultimately, with the lid of his litter box was turned upside down into the litter so that he couldn't use the box. He was very distressed by the attacks he was under and was observant of the unseen energy around him. The door of the oven opened overnight. I heard raging around sounds in the living room. I'm not sure what raging around sounds are. At 4 a.m. The back of the entertainment unit was pulled away. Being away? I don't know what pulled being away is, but that's what they wrote. I could hear it being pulled out. I saw a red warrior metal type entity with a shield for a split second marching towards the charm on the entry table. There are knocking sounds above my head while showering or dressing in the morning. And finally, in April 96, I contacted a spiritual source and was told to take the charm away at the new moon and place it in a crossroads, which turned out to be in a trash can near the metro shop. I then cleansed the house with white sage. Some of the harassment stops, but it still exists. And now my husband and I both hear a wind, like a hissing sound, from the closet area where the entity stays most of the time. The energy tried to enter me while I was lying down, causing a heightened experience of color and forms, and I lay down on the bed and heard a bang. The entity caused a noise from one of the metal bed frame and then moved the covers, and I felt a chopping, like maybe blade experience in my midsection. We've heard clicks and bangs throughout the house, and recently the entity marched towards me close up. I felt it and caused the floor to vibrate, a favorite ploy that has it to activate the computer from sleep to ready mode. How can I rid my home of this energy that has been here for 10 plus years? The energy is definitely not good. You got to get yourself someone in there who can do it for you. It's always good to try to do it yourself since it's your space, your home. I don't mean to do it without guidance or without someone present, but you definitely always have to take part, because if someone comes in and banishes something from your house and then they leave, as soon as their banishment wears off, which I don't know how long that takes for sure, but even an exorcism cannot be permanent. Things can come back, but it's important to do it with you participating, because as long as you're present, your energy will continue to bolster that. But if you're relying on someone else to do it for you, I mean, that can work, but I think it's still requires work from the people living in the space. Anyway, just another one of my 2 cents. I got a lot of 2 cents tonight, I guess. Type thank you, bye, Ghostologist Brent. Oh, you leaving, Renee? All right. Thanks for coming in. All right. Let's see. What are we at for the time? Because I want to try that new feature to see what that looks like. Yeah, I guess this is a good place to stop and look at it. So hold on here. Let me go to the live control room. I want to see what this looks like. What the hell? Oh, no. It's going to try to make me launch a new stream. Never mind. I'm going to go back. All right. We're still rolling here, ladies and gentlemen, but I guess that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Apparently there is a new feature in the YouTube beta. They're redoing all their controls and stuff and over time, and they're going to phase out the old stuff. So, which is cool. I'm good with change, but as long as it works. Some of the stuff they've rolled out has been really bad. It's not worked right at all. So hopefully this will work. But anyway, guys, I love you all very much. Thank you so much for being a part of the portals. I'm sorry I was a little scattered tonight, but just got a lot of things on my plate. I'm just trying to sort through, but I hope you guys still enjoyed the show all the same. Again, I love doing these shows. I love that you guys are all taking part, and thank you all so much for that. I will be back tomorrow night with the 2-hour Friday show, including listener emails. So if you have a story that you would like shared on tomorrow's show, get it emailed into me as soon as possible, and I will read it tomorrow night on the Friday show. So if you have a ghostly experience, you've experienced a Bigfoot, you saw a flying saucer or some kind of UFO, or you've been abducted, whatever the case is, by all means, please let me know. I would be happy to hear your story, and I'd really love to share it to the rest of the listeners as well. So, new podcast coming out tomorrow. And, thank you, Gemini. You're very welcome. It's always my pleasure. And I got to thank all of you so much from truly the bottom of my heart. Your continued participation and enthusiasm for the show has just been amazing. It just makes it all worthwhile. Even no matter how much work this all is, it just, when I come in and, you guys are here and excited for the shows, it's just snowballs with me. It makes me so excited to give you shows. So thank you all for your continued participation and enthusiasm for the portal. I love it. All right. Good night, Al. Okay. But that's going to wrap it up for us tonight, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. I'll be back tomorrow, and Don will be back with me Saturday. So you guys take care. I'll see you tomorrow night, and sweet dreams.